I appear on the agenda this evening with an entry that said, address from the First Minister. I have to tell you that I think address from the First Minister is rather a grand description for what you're about to get from me this perhaps barely coherent ramble from the First Minister may be a more accurate description. I'm very conscious of the fact that I am now the only thing standing between you and the fresh strawberry tart. And remember, somebody was offered Tom's fresh strawberry tart to go with their own. Anyway, I know the anticipation about the fresh strawberry tart will be great. So, being the charitable soul that I am, I've decided only to speak for about an hour and 10 minutes. That's a kind of nervous laugh, I think. Anyway, I stand here just now, and I stood in this very spot last year, and I find myself tonight having exactly the same thought that I had last year. And I'm going to call it my dirty dancing thought. Do you remember that scene from Dirty Dancing where she runs across the dance floor into the arms of Patrick Swayze and he holds her aloft? Well, right now, I'm looking at Hamish and seeing Patrick Swayze. And if I had any of these heels on. Anyway, look, this has been a tremendous evening. And I'm sure you all... Is this microphone working? Can you hear me? Yes. What are you saying? Right, is that better? Yes. Right, too loud. Margaret Pennycook saying too loud. And anybody who knows anything about Glasgow Southside SNP knows that you must never, ever, ever disobey Margaret Pennycook. So just tell me again if it gets too loud. Is it too loud? Okay. They're getting impatient. They're heckling me already. Anyway, it's been an absolutely fantastic evening. We've had incredible performances this evening. I'm sure you want to join with me in thanking all of our tremendous performers. They've all been incredible. I want to single out just one in particular for a moment. The performance of the one and only Donald Robertson. I have to say, Ian made a big mistake tonight in telling me that his name was really Donald. Because from now on, forever and ever and ever, I am going to refer to Ian Robertson as the Donald Jr. But anyway, I thought the Donald Jr.'s toast to the lassies this evening was different, but absolutely splendid. And if you remember when he was talking about the fact that women and men are equal but different, he referred to how we read maps differently. And I think that's true, actually. What he did up there was a very good impersonation of me trying to read a map. And a lot of the women in the room would have probably recognised that as well. But I think there's other ways in which we can demonstrate that women and men are equal but different. And some of you will have heard me reflect on this before, so I apologise if I'm boring you. But I think it's worth repetition. Men and women have got a very, very different perception of distance. Ricky Bell, that is a really dirty laugh. But you know how guys say that women are really bad at parking cars? Well, actually, we kind of are, right? No, we are. We are. And but the reason is we're really rubbish when it comes to judging distance. But there is a reason for this. the reason that we are rubbish when it comes to judging distance is that we have all spent our entire adult lives being reliably informed that that is 6 inches. So, you know, who can blame us? Anyway, back to the address from the First Minister. It has, as others have commented on already this evening, it has been some day. I arrived at an event first thing this morning, and the person who was there to meet me said, "It's a historic day today." And I thought to myself, well, the Govan Burn supper's important, yeah, but I'm not sure I would describe it as historic. But it has been a historic day for other reasons, obviously. And I'm not going to comment because it's not politic or diplomatic for me to do so, other than to say if you haven't yet watched the inaugural address, if you're going home this evening to watch it, I only have this one piece of advice for you. Watch throughout it Michelle Obama's face. That is all you need to do. I'm kind of glad that we got to the point of the inauguration of the new President of the United States, because apart from anything else, it means that we are now well and truly into 2017. And I know it's become a bit of a cliche, but I think it is a good thing that we've left 2016 well and truly behind us. There were many events that happened in 2016 that many of us probably wish hadn't happened. I've seen some of them, and I'll mention a couple of them in a moment. Some of them were personally very traumatic for me. Now, we had Brexit, obviously, which I may come back to in a moment. Then, and this is the one that was personally traumatic for me. At our party conference in this very city just a few months ago, the morning I was making my leader's speech to the conference, the BBC News, Network News, this wasn't just in Scotland, Network News were doing a piece about my conference speech later that day. But as they read out the contents of, or the summarised contents of my conference speech, they managed to show footage of a gorilla that had escaped from London Zoo. Now, many people thought in that sort of, you know, nationalist paranoia that we are sometimes guilty of, that this was evidence of BBC bias. Or should I say further evidence? But I want to debunk that completely. There is a much, much more innocent explanation for the BBC showing the footage of the gorilla when they were talking about me. And that is that nobody had told them that Alec wasn't leader of the SNP anymore. I've just realised this has been filmed. You might have told me that before I started. You'll scrub that last bit, won't you? No. You're about to tell me now it's live. Yeah, he won't be watching, don't worry. Anyway, moving swiftly on, we then got Donald Trump elected. And, you know, it has been said, and in fact there's lots and lots and lots of talk about this, lots of controversy about alleged Russian interference in the American election. So we have a friend from Russia with us this evening. Welcome. Welcome. But anyway, there has been allegations made that it was Russian interference in the American election that may have swung it for Donald Trump. I have to say, I don't think that's true. I think, again, there is a simpler explanation. It's called the curse of Scottish Labour. Because if you recall, not long after she led her own party to third place in the Scottish elections, Kezia Dugdale went to campaign for Hillary Clinton. Clinton. That was the interference in the American election that swung it for Donald Trump. Anyway, one more event that I think is worth mentioning from 2016. The election of a woman to the office of Prime Minister. The second, why didn't that guy clap? Come on, even a small. Anyway, Theresa May has recently had some controversy, obviously, for a number of things, but in particular for a pair of brown leather trousers that she wore for a photo shoot in some newspaper. Now, I've got some sympathy for her, because as a woman in politics, I know how closely scrutinised you are for what you wear and how you look and what lovely shoes. Let me digress just for a second. Don't let me forget Theresa May's brown leather trousers. I want to come back to those. But a couple of years ago, I was asked to put a particular pair, I wore a pair of tartan shoes to deliver my first ever conference speech as leader of the SNP, and somebody asked me if I would put them up for auction for charity, which I said, well, I really like them, but yes, it's for charity. And ever since then, I get branches all over the country asking me to donate shoes for charity. It's not going to be too long before I'm standing here in my stocking soles because I've given away all my shoes. These are a particularly treasured pair of shoes, so somebody please buy them this evening and give them a good home, because I'm going to miss them dearly. Anyway, where was I? Theresa May, brown leather trousers. She got a lot of stick for the brown leather trousers, but actually I think she was ahead of her time in wearing brown leather trousers. You see, I think when the full horror of Brexit starts to impact, she ain't going to be the only UK minister sitting round that cabinet table wearing brown trousers. So she was ahead of her time. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. The only other thing I want to mention that happened in 2016 is a good thing. The SNP won the election. We won a third term in office. And to all of you who helped us secure that victory in whatever way you helped, canvassing, leafleting, telephoning, donating money, whatever you did to help, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. We've got another election coming up now that we're in 2017, and I want to ask for your help again, because in just a few months' time, we have the opportunity to do something that I think is needing done in the city of Glasgow, to deliver change to this great city, to deliver an SNP administration to lead this city forward. Donald spoke earlier on. I'm going to keep mentioning him tonight just so I can call him Donald. But he spoke very movingly about the wonderful city that we are in just now. The fact that it's not a geographical entity, it is a state of mind and all of that. I think it deserves better than what it has right now in terms of its political leadership. So let's get out there and make sure that we sweep it away and replace it with a forward-looking SNP administration in May. Please help us do that. But there's something else we need to do this year. We need to start to confront the reality in which we find ourselves in Scotland. We have to confront the reality that as Joyce referred to earlier on, the so-called union of equals, the partnership of equals that we are told the United Kingdom is in fact anything but. You know, it's 3 years ago right now, we had just entered referendum year. 2014, we were all full of excitement and anticipation. The unionist establishment was getting more and more nervous and worried. And remember, all of those promises and commitments that were made. What was it? Scotland was to lead the UK, not leave the UK. We had to vote no to protect our place in the European Union. And here we are today, with our place in the European Union on the line because we voted no. And Scotland's voice not being listened to. That's not acceptable. And it's not just about the European Union. We face not just being taken out of Europe against our wishes and against our will. We face a Tory government that we didn't vote for, playing to the right wing of their own party, playing to UKIP, changing the nature of the society we live in, threatening that if they don't get their own way in Europe, they're going to turn the UK into a bargain basement economy, take away workers' rights and indulge in a race to the bottom. A Tory government that is indulging a fear of foreigner rather than celebrating the diversity that makes us who we are. And let us be clear, one of the best things about this city and about this country is our diversity. It is our strength and it is not a weakness, and we should never let any government at Westminster threaten that ever. So there is a fundamental question arising for all of us in this country of ours. And actually it goes much beyond the question of are we in or out of the European Union. You know, many people in Scotland voted to leave. There may be people in this room who voted to leave the European Union. But whether you voted to leave it or stay in it, surely one thing should unite all of us, and that is a belief in the fact that it is the people of Scotland who should decide that question, not a government hundreds of miles away that we don't vote for. And that is the question that is arising again for Scotland. Who decides the future of this country? And who decides what kind of country we are? Are we happy to let that decision be taken by a government we don't vote for, taking us down a path that we don't want to go down? Or are we going to determine that we will take that future into our own hands and decide for ourselves what kind of country we want Scotland to be? So that is the question that is arising again for all of the people across this country of ours. And you know, for all those who say that Scotland couldn't ever be an independent country, well, that's nonsense for all sorts of reasons. But let me just bring it to this simple point. We've heard tonight recited from some of our best actors and performers in our country the works of Robert Burns. If the land that produced Robert Burns, a poet that right now is being celebrated in every corner of this world of ours, the land that produced the genius that is Robert Burns, can't be an independent country, then no country on this earth can be independent. We have what it takes. We need to find the confidence to assert that belief in ourselves. So let me end with this, with a bit of a distortion of the words of the great bard. For all that and all that, it is coming yet for all that. Independence, my friends, is coming yet for all that. Let's get on. Let's build that case and let's get out and win that case. Thank you very much.